everybody. It is Saturday, and we are doing another episode of Carmela's Rasslin Radio Relived. And here's my beautiful Jeannie. Hi.
Hi, Carm. How are
How
you
you
doing?
doing? I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm officially on vacation, so I am
Yay.
fantastic.
Great. I guess you will be for the whole week, right?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we have the most one of the most, let's put it that way, unbelievable shows. Okay.
Yes.
Jeannie and I are beyond honored, all right, to have this woman on the show today. Um, she is so sweet and so kind and has put up with me literally bothering her, torturing her for 3 months to try to get her to do this podcast. She is the wife of Bruiser Brody. It's going to be an interesting, fantastic show. I suggest that you listen to it twice, actually, not just once. Before we bring her on, we're going to talk real quick about May 3rd of 2025. Don't forget to mark your calendar for that. As we said before, there is a building, there is a contract. Okay, that's all we know right now. We're also going to ask you again to sign the petition for the banner. We now have a little over 500 names. So I figure if the 500 people who signed it just, grab a friend and say, hey, look, why don't you just sign it? We'll be up to 1,000 in no time. When we post the show, we're going to post the link again. I've posted it so much now, Facebook yelled at me and said, stop it. So I'm going to keep trying though. But anyway, that's what we're asking you to do. I'm not going to delay this anymore because talking to this lady is going to be an honor.
Yes.
We're bringing her on right now, ladies and gentlemen, Barbara Goodish. Barbara,
Hi, hello
Hi.
everybody.
hi,
How's
how are
everybody?
you?
Good. How's everybody doing today?
We're doing
Good.
good. Barbara, this is my co-host, Jeannie.
Nice to meet you,
Yes.
Jeannie.
Hi. Nice to meet you too. It is such an honor and a thrill. I have chills. You have no idea.
Yeah, me
Ooh.
too. I didn't sleep all night last night. I really didn't. I have to tell you honestly, please, I want to do this right, and I don't want to do or say anything at all to offend you. So we usually call him Brody, Bruiser Brody. We don't know him personally as Frank, okay? Um, and he did work for me a million bajillion years ago. So we'll get into all that. But I wanted to also apologize to you publicly for being a pain in your butt for all these months. And and like I'm like every other day I'm like, hi, when can you do our podcast? Um, and I'm going to ask you only one time during this podcast, if you can, if you think of it, ask Tony Gurria if he'd like to do it. I don't know how he
I,
feels about podcast, but I know I would love to have him on. I love him. Like I said, years and years ago, we kind of knew each other a little bit. Um, and you see, I was born and raised in wrestling. Okay, so when he wrestled in Philadelphia, I knew him. I actually did a report on him for school. Uh, uh, we did a report on him and his at that time tag team partner Dean Ho. So I would love to have him on. But the first thing I'm going to ask you is, did you have a nice week? You were in Vegas for the Hall of Fame.
yes, no, it's called the Cauliflower Alley
Yes,
Club, the CAC, and
CAC.
and it's a wonderful organization for anyone that wants to join. You can become a member. You get 4 magazines a year, and what it is. As we know with wrestling, there is no pension, there is no medical, and they give their bodies for the business. Well,
Wow.
after they retire and cannot do or they get hurt, sometimes, as all, they have a little bit of problems. So, what they can do if they need a little extra to pay the rent or to pay a medical bill, they can contact the benevolent fund on the CAC Cauliflower Alley Club, and we will help them. So it's a non-profit organization. Our fundraiser was just this weekend. Just got back on yesterday late. That's why I'm a little hot. Vegas in
Oh,
6 days, but as I said, and I volunteer and I help them down there because I think it's a great organization because there's not too much that the boys, the wrestling boys, can turn to when they get into trouble. So it's a great organization. We have a fundraiser every year about this time. They have, you know, Sting was there, Sting, Lex Luger. There was a Buff Bagwell. There was quite a few of the celebrities, or the celebrities. I call them celebrities because they're well-known old-time
Yeah,
wrestlers.
they
And
are.
yeah, so they belong in that category. So they'll come
Absolutely.
and they'll sign things, and then people can. We have a great time for 3 days in Vegas, and it's a great organization. So anyone, I would tell them just join because it does benefit the boys.
It's funny. I actually never knew, and I apologize for saying a Hall of Fame. I never knew exactly what the Cauliflower Club. We always called it Cauliflower Alley, but
Mhm.
Cauliflower Club was about. So I appreciate your clearing that up for us. Thank you.
Yes,
Is
as I
there a
said,
website or some type of
yes.
that
Go to the
people can go
website.
to
Yeah,
join?
Cauliflower Alley Club is the website. It'll come up. .org, I think it is, but it'll come up if you type in Cauliflower Alley Club, it'll definitely come up. So you can
Okay.
join there, and it'll tell you all about it. There's news on there and everything. So yes,
Thank you. Thank you so much for that information. And we will, in the future, put that forward because we have your comments now, and they'll be, forever held for posterity. So we will announce it, yeah, during on our podcast. So maybe we
Yeah.
can help, them get a few more members. Um, before we go on, I wanted to just ask you. I don't, I'm going to be very diligent here because I downloaded all kinds of questions and I wanted to be focused. Yeah, I wanted to do and say the right things. Let's put it this way. This is a very very special um, gentleman for us. Okay, he worked for us, like I said, in the '80s, and he fought Bruiser Brody, and God bless him. He does present such a fierce appearance. Like a, oh my God, don't be in his way because he's going to kill you, that kind of thing. But from what I understand and my meeting him, he was a wonderful, sweet, kind man. Could you elaborate on that a little bit for us, please?
I think as you said that, yes, what it was. Sometimes when people become a character, whether it's a movie or wrestling, they believe in that character. Well, with Frank, he was Bruiser Brody and he was Frank Goodish, and never the two came together. He knew when he was Bruiser Brody, and then he knew when he was Frank Goodish. So when he left the house, just funny, I always think back to that. These were the days when you could drive right up to the door of the airport. He
Oh
would
yeah.
I'd drive him to the door of the airport to leave. He would get out of the car, kiss his son and myself goodbye. Then, as soon as he went through the doors of the airport, you could see him change into the character. He became Bruiser Brody. Same thing happened as he came home. He would come through the airport. Then, as soon as he came through the gate, the doors of the airport, he became Frank Goodish. So he never lost sight that he was Frank Goodish. His business name was Bruiser Brody, and that's how I think, and it still amazes me that they still remember him today. And I think I sometimes wonder because, as you know, I go to these fan fests and that, and
Hmm.
it is absolutely incredible that a lot of the people that talk to me weren't even born when he passed on this world. And later on, I have a few funny stories I need to tell you, but yes, but he treated it as a business. It was his, Bruiser Brody was his business. Like
Right.
you do a podcast is your business, but
Right.
then you leave the podcast and you become yourself again. The same thing that he did was he was always Frank Goodish at home, but he was Bruiser Brody on the road.
Wow. It's amazing because, like, again, I grew up around wrestling ever since I was 6 years old, and you're so right. So many people are like that, but it seems like some of them back then always maintained that. We call it kayfabe. You know what kayfabe is,
Hmm.
but
I
a
do.
lot of, yeah, a lot of people maintain that persona even when they were in the public, like just, going to the store or whatever. Some of the wrestlers were like, if they were in a supermarket and they saw a fan, right away it would be like, oh, I'm this or I'm that. But um, he always seemed to have an inner kindness about him. And like I said, when I met him, he was funny. He was gentle. He was kind. Most of the wrestlers were different. You're right. And when he went into that ring, oh my God, it was amazing. Now, if you don't mind, please tell us a little bit about how you met him, how long you were married, and your accent, by the way, is gorgeous. I love
Oh,
your accent.
thank you. Well, I was working in a hotel in Australia, Sydney, in Sydney, Australia, and it was a hotel, and we had all the boys that came over from America to wrestle. They would do the Australian, New Zealand circuit, so they stay in the hotel. This day, I mean, I had met him before. I mean, we had Andre the Giant. I could go on. Don Morocco, Ricky Mattel. I mean, so many. J.J. Dillon, Tony Guerrero, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
these are people that I've known for over 40 years because this was 1977.
Hmm.
Whoa. I go back and it's like 1977. That's a long time ago.
It is. I know. I know.
And I just happened to got talked into working this one night. They'd been in about 3 months. He'd been in and out about 3 months already. And I was kind of like a big sister because this was the time before any of the internet. And it was very expensive to make a phone call between different countries.
Right.
So I would, they would show me photographs of their wives because they were all missing home. They were missing their families and they were in a different country. So I was just like a big sister to a lot of them.
Hmm.
And this one night I got talked and somebody didn't show up for work for the 3 to 11 shift in the hotel. And I'd already worked my 8 to 5. So I said, well, okay, I will stay on. I mean, those
Wow.
days, any extra money. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
yes, I'll still get, those are days, oh, yes, I'll take some extra money. What am I doing?
Exactly.
You know. So I was just getting ready to finish. I was just, finishing my shift and they all pulled up. They'd been to a wrestling match in Sydney, and they all pulled up. And I mean, there was like about 2 carloads.
Wow.
And I'd become good friends with a killer Carl Krupp, who has also passed.
Hmm.
And he came up to me and said, "Hey, we're all going up to my boss was an American gentleman in where I was working, and he had a bar up the street, a piano bar called the Bourbon and Beef. So they said, well, look, why don't you just come up and have a drink with us? It's late at night. You've just finished work. So I went, well, if you work late, it's not like you go straight home. You kind of have to unwind a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, so I went up there with them all. I met them all up there. And I mean, sitting at the table, there's got to be 10 of them. Huge, big table, 10 of them. We're all talking because, I knew most of them. And all of a sudden, one by one, they started to leave. Okay, nothing thought. One by one, one by one. Then there was myself, Frank, and Carl. And then Carl gets up and leaves. And what do you think happened? He never came back. And
Ah!
I found out later that I got worked. Frank didn't know how to kind of ask me out. He said, she'll never come out if I ask her out. So he said,
Oh.
maybe all you guys can help me. She'll feel safe. She probably may come out
Oh.
if we're all together, but you've got to go. You got to leave the table. You've got to, leave the two of us together. And that's how it
Oh.
started. And you know something?
What?
If you're yourself, if usually when you go out on a date, you become somebody else because you want to impress the other person. So you're
Hmm.
kind of not yourself. You are yourself, but you're not. You know what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that when you've known somebody for quite some time, you have always been yourself because there's been no agenda or anything. So it's
Hmm.
just been friendship and you've always been yourself. And I think that's what he knew me from the very beginning without not knowing me. So for whatever reason, yes, he worked me. He was a good worker. I'm sure
He
you know
worked
that.
me. He did work you, but that's so
He,
sweet.
It
he
is.
did. He got all the guys. He's got all the guys together, and yep. He didn't know how to get me by myself, so he could talk to me. And you know the way he,
Oh,
yeah. Then you know the way he looked and everything. He said, "No, she will never ever. If I ask her out, she's never going to come out, but she'll feel
oh,
comfortable with everybody." So
what a
yes.
sweet man. Oh my God, what a story. I love it. I absolutely love it. I got the chills. I feel like I'm going to cry. It's crazy. So, okay, so let's talk about um how long did you date? When did you get married? How did he ask you to marry him?
Well, as you know, Frank had a little bit of a not bad reputation when it comes to promoters and everything. I mean, that's
Yeah,
well known. And it wasn't that he was difficult to work with. He knew how to do the business. He knew what would make money. And it wasn't like he was trying to do anything, but he knew how to protect his image and what would make money for the promoter and for him. It wasn't just for himself. He
hmm,
knew he knew the stories because as you know, in those days the wrestling was entirely different than what it is today. Old school wrestling was, and this is what I think some people now are wanting to come back to the old school wrestling again because
absolutely.
the people love it.
Hmm.
So this one night, I guess he'd had a little bit of a. We were in Australia, and he'd been over there 9 months on and off in Sydney. And
Hmm.
this one night, he comes back from his show, and he said, "Well," he said, "I'm going back home tomorrow." Oh, okay. Of course, everybody said, "Oh, you're dating. You're just there for the short time. He's going to leave, and you'll never see him again." You know. But he came home. He he put the stack of money on the table, and he said, "I'd like you to come over." Well, I don't know if you knew Frank. He was very frugal. He was very frugal with his money. He
Hmm.
didn't even say anything. All he did was put that money on the table and said, "I want you to come over." There was no promises. There was no nothing. It was just there. And at that moment, I knew he trusted me because I could have kept that money and that was it.
Absolutely.
There was no, because there wouldn't have been nothing. That money could have gone right in my pocket and that would have been it. I would have, but he knew when he put that money on the table, no, I knew he trusted me. And like I said, there were no promises. There was no
Hmm.
nothing because I'd been there and I was working, so I couldn't go over straight away. So I tied up, I think it was a week or 2 weeks or something, and I tied up, my life. I'd been there for quite some time and had to, I had apartments, I had this, but I took that opportunity because in life sometimes you got to grab the opportunities because they never happen again. So I thought, well, my goal was I was on my way to London. That was where I was, from Australia to London is what you usually did. So it was okay. I can visit America. I can go to America, see what happens, and then have a ticket to London. If it didn't work out, because you have to have a return ticket or a ticket out somewhere
Okay.
else. You can't just
Okay.
go to America or you can't just go to Australia or anywhere and not have
Right.
a way out for the
Right.
visas and everything. So it took time to get a visa and everything. So I did that. I went, okay. So about 2 weeks later, I went and I took the opportunity. I said, what a great opportunity to visit, even though there's no promises and I don't know what's going to happen. But hey, it's an adventure. Sometimes, like I said, you need when you're young, take adventures because that's what's part of your whole growing up.
Exactly.
So, so sure enough, I got on that plane, totally nervous. I thought, what happens if he's not even at the airport,
Oh.
to pick me up? But sure enough, I got all the way over there, and sure enough, I come out of the plane, and there he was waiting for me with a big smile on my face.
Oh. Oh
So
my God.
And as you know, I'm still here, so I guess it all worked out.
It sure did work out. My goodness. So now you have a child named Jeff. Is that correct?
That's right, with a
Right.
G. Yeah.
With a G. Yes. Yes. Now, did he ever want to become a wrestler?
No, because he was only 7 years old when he lost his father.
Oh. Okay.
And with being seven, and I think he sometimes maybe blamed his dad a little. No, blamed wrestling for losing his dad. But now he's finally beginning to see exactly what his dad meant to a lot of people. And I'm trying to get him to come to one of these fan fests with me because I think it would be really good. Because this weekend I met Justin Race, Harley's boy, was
Oh
there.
boy. Yep.
Kurt Hennig, who was also his dad.
Mm-hmm.
No, Hank Hennig,
Yes.
Kurt
Yes.
Hennig. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I met
Kurt's son.
Hank.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I've met two of the boys that have grown up too, same thing, and have lost their father. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
just thinking, I think it'd be a really good idea, and he would have so much in common with these young men too, because they're both Justin and Kurt and Hank are just really, really nice, very
Right.
nice people. I was very happy to meet them.
That's what it and this is an open invitation. If he would like to come on here and talk to us, we would love to talk to him and tell him maybe hearing from somebody else what a nice guy his dad was, and I'm sure he's heard it from a bunch of people. But he's always welcome to come back. Um, this is a very very hard interview for me and Jeannie because of the obvious part of it, his passing. I didn't know at first, to be honest with you, whether we should talk about it or whether you wanted to talk about it, because on this end, you read papers, you hear stuff, you hear this, you hear that. Um, is it okay if we talk a little bit about what happened?
Oh yeah, that's fine. No, that's
Okay.
okay because
Uh,
there's been enough time gone by now that it's what I mean. I talk to it like a third person that it didn't happen to me. So it's kind of like the third person that I can
right.
talk about, and then I realize sometimes it's hard to realize that I went through it.
I
But
can't imagine. I'll be honest with you. I can't imagine what you went through. Especially, I mean, you weren't there, obviously, right?
no, I started getting the phone call, at 12 o'clock at night that night, and of course I had just talked to him that afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd set to make another phone call. I had to do some business, and we were going to do some business for him. Then we were going to talk again on the Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And because we always had a thing, if the phone starts ringing at night, don't answer the phone, because usually, a lot of times you'd have women calling you trying to cause trouble, etc., etc.
Right.
It's business. And this phone just started calling and calling and calling, and it was like in the finish, it was like I finally got so mad because I was trying to sleep and picked up the
Mm-hmm.
phone, and it was a lady on the phone, and she said, I think you better come to Puerto Rico. Your husband's had an accident. Oh yeah, right. Okay, hang
Oh,
on.
yeah.
Oh, this is. Oh yes, I would really get into trouble. So I called. I knew the hotel where he was staying at, so I called the hotel, and they put me through to Dutch Mantel. And then, of course, Dutch Mantel told me that yes, there had been an accident, and maybe I should come. Well, I didn't even hesitate. I mean, this by now is 2 o'clock in the morning. I called
Mm-hmm.
up the airport. I got a plane out of there, I think at 7 o'clock that morning. Called my neighbor up. She wanted me to leave because Jeff, like I said, was seven. She wanted me to leave Jeff at her place.
Right. Right.
So I said, no, if he's hurt, he's going to want his son. So grabbed Jeff out of bed, didn't throw him in the car, put him in the car, took a bag. He still had his pajamas on. I'm changing him, putting some clothes on him while we're, driving to the airport because it all
Mm-hmm.
happened. This was only a few hours after I got that phone call. And of course, as you know, I got there. And of course, I'm sure you probably heard the thing that I the first person I saw was Abby running out of the airport. And
Mm-hmm.
he was the one that told me that he had already passed. So
Oh
it
my
kind of
God.
became a blur. Everything became a kind of a blur out of there. But it was Nancy, Carlos Colon's wife, that picked me up at the airport, and she took me. I mean, trying to get into it, yeah, kind of. I think about this now and I think, boy, how did I do that? Because we stopped off at her place to drop Jeff off. Here I am. How could I do that? I mean, I dropped my son off at a strange place.
Mm-hmm.
She was taking me, to identify the body.
Oh
But
my God.
Jeff was into basketball, and when we pulled up, I think it's Carlos's son, was
Yes,
playing
yes,
was
Carlito.
playing
Yep.
yeah, was
Yeah.
playing basketball with a bunch of guys out and playing.
Mm-hmm.
And my son loves basketball. He just jumps out and goes right to the basketball court and starts playing
Aw.
basketball. No idea, of course,
Of
exactly what
course,
had
yeah.
happened. So I knew once he starts playing basketball, I didn't, because as I said, I'm in a fog at this time. I
Of
think about
course.
it now. I think, how could I have left him? I don't even know these people, and here I am. I'm leaving my son in this strange environment in Puerto Rico. But you you go into a shock,
You
you
do.
really,
Yeah.
and then of course I had to go identify the body, and then of course, I had a little show down there, not a show, a service down there, and then I brought him back home with me. I got him cremated, and then I brought him back home with me. So then had another little service here, and it's really nice. I were with a lot of the little Puerto Rican little girls. They're so cute. When I was in Vegas, and because I did a podcast down there in Puerto Rico, which I've never done before, and it's like I said, I don't blame the people, and they had a banner out, do not blame the people of Puerto Rico. Well, and it's like I said, I don't blame them, because that's not it's nothing to do with anybody else except the people that did it. But it's so incredible. There's about four of them. I got a photograph of about four of them, little
Aw.
Negra and La Rosa, and they come and they just hug me. They just come and all hug me, and you know
Aw.
what I mean. It really makes my heart really good. And every time I see her, she always gives me the biggest hug, and she just is like and to have that, because after I did the podcast, they knew how I felt about the people,
Mm-hmm.
and was like, thank you for doing the podcast. Thank you. We love you. And it's like, oh,
Aw.
it
God
just
bless.
makes me feel really good.
And it should. It should. Um, we again, you read a bunch of stuff. Um, you read good and bad, and you read the horrible things that you read. Okay. What I wanted to ask you was he actually attempting to buy the promotion down there?
No,
Okay, that's part of the stuff that you read. So I
no,
wasn't sure.
no. It was a money involved buying the promotion. No, he was already starting up with Herb Simmons, who has put on a what Bruiser Brody Memorial ever since it happened. He does a
Mm-hmm.
show every single year, the Bruiser Brody Memorial, and they have a big cup that I present to everybody. So he and Larry Matisak, who I wrote the book with, I got behind me. I wrote the book with Larry Matisak, and because he was one of his favorite, Frank's favorite promotions was Sam Mushnick in St. Louis,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and Herb and Larry were both there, and he was a few of the people that he trusted 100%. In fact, when I did have Jeff, Frank was on the road. He was in between Kansas City and St. Louis. And when he got to the show, I had, when he got to the show, Sam Muchnick told him, "What are you doing here?" He sent him home that night so he could come,
Oh.
so he could come home, even though he was meant to work that night and everything. He made him go home to be with me and his
Oh.
newborn son. So, he was always grateful to that organization. So, so what it was, they were starting up an independent. independent promotion between this Sam has already passed to, between Larry and Herb Simmons, and he
Okay.
was starting to do little. This was way back when it was just, you know, there was only a few groups back then. What, Ted Turner,
Right.
of course, WWE, Vince McMahon, and there wasn't a lot of groups. So that it was just at the beginning of the independent circuit, and so Frank was joining up with Herb and Larry. So that's why no, there was. I know I've heard that rumor by so many
Okay.
people that no. Mm-mm.
Okay. What you said now, there's no, I don't want to dwell on the rest of that because there's no need for that. But you said that Japan. Tell us a little bit about uh, Frank and Japan, and you said that Japan was so kind to you in his passing. He was very well known in Japan. He was very well liked in Japan. Tell us a little bit about his time in Japan and how they treated you after his passing.
Oh, I'm telling you, they took us over. I think it had to be in August. It wasn't that long after, and myself and Jeff and Stan was there too, and because you know Stan and Frank were a very powerful tag team.
Oh yeah,
They were one of the top people over in Japan, and they took us over there. And I mean, the show that they did, I see pictures now. It's hard for me to think that that's me in that ring. You know what I mean?
oh,
And they give the 10 bell count, and they was a Mrs. Barber and Giant Barber, and they just treated us so wonderful. In fact, even today, I'm still dealing with the Japanese, even 36 years later,
oh
because they
wow.
they do their they do some merchandise and that, and they always come and ask me if I approve the design of a T-shirt or they do that. So he is still very well remembered, even this long after. He's still remembered in Japan.
Absolutely, he's remembered everywhere, and
Yeah.
you know it's and but he's remembered with honor. He's remembered with respect. He's not remembered with any malice or any bad words or like some other people are. He was always an icon. He was always bigger than life, as they say. I'm looking at behind you. You did say you have a book. If you don't mind, could you put it up to the screen? Now you said you contributed in the writing of that.
Yes, what it was, Larry did the wrestling part, and I did the personal part. So it was kind of like half and half. The personal part I wrote, and
Right.
the wrestling part he wrote. So it was, and what it was, there was another book out. Oh, hold this, and there was another book out that somebody had wrote, and they had asked me to contribute, and I said no. And then Larry Matisak, he came and he asked me, would I do a book? Well, I said, well, I can't write. You know, he said, yes, just write what, your personal, which is,
Right.
when you write the truth, it's very easy because it's the truth. It's
Yes,
people.
exactly.
Whereas the other book was, I've just spent time with Gail, his sister. She was with me in Vegas,
Hmm.
and she read the other book, and she was a little bit upset because of some of the things they said about her dad and her family, and that
Yeah.
she doesn't know how they got it, but she said that was not true. There were some really bad things about the family.
Right.
So, and
Right.
she wrote it. Whereas this one, I knew Larry is 100% truthful, and of course, I just wrote down my story, like I'm telling you right now.
Right. Exactly.
You know,
Well, it's funny because I've always wanted to write a book because I have a ton of stories, and that's what this podcast is about. It's about stories. It's about bringing people back to life. Let's say memories, that kind of stuff. And I was always afraid because they say you have to be really careful who you mention, what you say. But then on the other hand, you hear people say, well, as long as it's the truth, and as long
as
as
long
it's
as
what
it's the
you
truth.
experienced, yes, and
And also, yeah, I know it's the truth. And
exactly.
there's another down sure this Powtown. Have you seen the Powtown
Oh
figure that
wow.
came out with?
Oh
Look
my
at
God.
that. No, I've never seen that. Oh my God.
That's
That is
Powtown.
amazing.
And when you open it up,
Oh,
I don't know what
look.
picture you get.
Oh, I want one.
I know, me too. Do you have a website or something that people can
Nope,
go to, Barbara?
Just Facebook. They can contact me through Facebook.
Okay,
But yeah,
that's wonderful.
yeah. I mean, it's the whole thing. It's got all about
Wow.
everything. Even the packaging, and what they did a first run, and it was Frank and Stan
Right.
and Luthiers and Magnum, Kerry Von Erich,
Wow.
and Vern Gagne was
Wow.
the
You got
first. I
some.
did one of each figure. They went through the generations.
That's some heavy hitters. You got
Yeah.
some heavy hitters there. And it's funny because the people of today don't know a lot of these people. They don't know what
No,
wrestling was like and don't know who the people were and you know whatever. And I have to tell you again, I have to repeat myself that I was so honored to have your husband work for me. I was in a partnership with Joel Goodhart. I'm sure you know Joel
okay,
Goodhart. And we had our own were we had a talk show on the radio back then in the 80s. And you know, we also had a store where we sold stuff and then we had promotion. So we promoted some shows and he and Frank and Abdullah were a match for us at one of our shows and I got to tell you it was incredible. They were two of the people that I can honestly tell you that worked so well together. Unbelievable. It was unbelievable what, and I know you know, I mean, you've seen his a million matches, but it was unbelievable the things that they did. And the people who came were amazed. They were beside themselves. You know, people were actually frightened. Were you there, Jeannie, for that?
I think I was babysitting.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jeannie babysat my daughter. I'm sorry. Oh my God. Yeah, I had a little 1 year old at the time. And
oh,
you know, maybe she was two, but Jeannie, God bless her, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have been able to do half of the things I actually did then. She babysat a lot, but um if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be sitting here right now either. So,
ah,
you know, but she didn't get to meet him, but we did and again, he was amazing. Um I have a couple of questions written here.
okay.
Um
I want to
and
ask you. I want to ask a quick question. Can you hear my dog barking?
yes, but that's okay.
No, I can. Can you shut me off just for a minute? I'm gonna go get him out just real
All right,
quick.
I'll take you off for a minute.
Okay.
Okay, just for a minute. She is unreal.
Oh,
This podcast is so going to be so
oh my
cool. I
God. Oh my God.
I just want to cry
I
listening
know.
to
I
her
know.
story.
Yeah, I told you before we started, when I watched the documentary,
The Dark
I
Side of the
guess
Ring.
the Dark
Why
Side
don't
of
you
the
ask
Ring,
her about that? Yeah,
I
when she comes
sobbed like
back.
a baby. I
Yeah.
sobbed like a baby.
All right, she's back.
I'm back.
That's okay. Thank you, Barbara. You
Thank,
didn't have to do that though.
thank you.
But
No, I
thank
could
you.
hear it, and as I said, it was just getting worse and worse. I said, I hope
It's
he,
okay.
I hope
What
you
kind of
can't hear him on the show. I went, oh my gosh.
no problem. What kind of a dog is it?
It's kind of, it was meant to be a Pomchi, but he ended up like a Sheltie. The
Aw.
person that gave it, or that we got him from, said, I have something to tell you. I think he's going to be a little bigger than what I told you he was going to be. So,
Oh,
but
but
Oh,
that's
as they,
okay.
you fall in love with them.
Yeah, you do.
yeah.
You absolutely do.
I'm I'm
Jeannie
sorry
wanted to.
about that.
No, please do not apologize. Jeannie wanted to ask you something. Uh,
Yeah, no, I just wanted to know how you felt the outcome, because I know I watched the Dark Side of the Ring on your husband, and I sobbed like a baby. By the end of it, I was just like, you know, um, I didn't know him, but I knew the story, but I didn't know it that much. How did you feel about the outcome of that episode? Did you like it, or did you think they went off track, or
No, the dark side of the ring. They came to me. You know that was the pilot episode for Vice, for
Mhm.
Evan and Jason.
yeah?
mhm.
They came to me and said, we're thinking about doing a series, called Dark Side of the Ring, and we would like to put Frank as the very first episode.
Wow.
If they like it, then they'll pick us up. Well, as we know, this is what 4 years later or something, and that's why they're very grateful, because from that one episode, they have got all these other episodes. It's Vice picked it up, and as I said, they always contact me because, as I said, that was the one. So yes, I was a little apprehensive because, well, really putting it out on the TV and in mainstream, I guess you'd call it, being the
Right.
Vice channel. But I think they did it very well. In fact, that was the only time Jeff has ever done anything on his, I was surprised. We went to Austin to do the episode, and of course they were young like Jeff. They were more Jeff's age.
Right.
So they really got on really good. And while I was doing the sit down interview, if you've seen it, you'll know, then all of a sudden Jeff comes on, and it was wow. Like I said, that's the first time he's ever done anything,
That's
with anything like that. So what happened, but it really got me. I mean, I was really got me when they said, "Are there any something like, are there any stories of your father?" And it's not the exact words he used, but the way that he said it. Well, everybody has stories except me, and that kind
oh,
of I went, oh, which is so true. He's hearing all these stories of everybody else with all these memories, and he has such a, not that many memories of his dad. The one good thing is, it was the school holidays before all this happened, because it was in July. We had gone up to Six Flags of Texas. We actually maybe for one of the first times had a family vacation, and we went up to Six Flags over Texas, and they rode, what is it? The I can't even remember the name of it now. It was a ride that you get in this little, those little things that you get in, with other people, and
mm,
you keep
okay.
going. It goes up, 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 up.
Oh,
Oh, like
roller
a roller
coaster.
coaster. Roller
Yeah.
coaster.
Well, not
Yeah.
so much a roller coaster, but went
That's
up, and then it stopped, and then it came down in water. It was like,
oh, like
Oh,
a log flume kind of thing.
yeah, something like that. It went up,
Hmm.
stopped, and then phew, then it came down. It was like a waterfall. It was like a, I can't quite remember that. You know how it is when you.
Yeah.
I'll remember it as soon as we stop talking.
Of course. Yes. Of course.
I know, but what it was, nobody really knew this. Frank, you wouldn't think this, but Frank was kind of didn't like heights.
Oh
So for
wow.
so for him to get in this ride with his son and go
Oh.
I'm out of things, so high up, and then it stops before it falls down into
Right.
the water, and I'm standing down there. I thought, this is son, this is good as son and father. Let's have a, let them bond. It stopped, and it stopped, and I went, uh. And then I saw the mechanics or whatever it is walking up. The
Oh
thing had
no.
the thing had broken down on the top.
Oh no. Are you
oh my
serious?
gosh.
And I knew that Frank would be panicking. And I knew, because it was Texas, that probably every other person on that ride knew who he was. And he had his son next to him.
Oh my
And
God.
and it was like 10, 15 minutes that before they got it fixed. And then next minute, phew, comes down in the water. Well, when Frank got off that ride, he was white. He said, I couldn't show anything. I've got people that know who I am because
Exactly.
I'm with my son. He
Oh
said, but
my God.
that was quite an experience. He said, I'm trying to be really tough, but underneath I'm going, oh my gosh, please just let this ride be over. So,
Oh my God.
and it's
That is,
hard to believe that he was like that, because
yeah,
he got up on that top rope. He got up on climbing out of cages. I mean,
I
but
know.
you
I
know,
know, but it's funny that like you said, that he said, I had to like I had to not show anything,
Yeah.
because of the people who knew him, and because, he had to keep that persona of being brave at that moment. You know what I mean? Wow, that's crazy. Now, in the beginning, you said that you had a couple of stories to tell us. Have we talked about any of those stories yet, or do you still have a few?
No, I was. This is the funny story, and this is Vegas again. When I came back, there was JT, another gentleman that came and was talking to me, and he told me the story about his daughter. Daughter's probably 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Big Barbie. She's into Barbie,
Okay.
but she told her dad. Her dad collected, figures and everything like that, but to her, Ken was too wimpy. She wanted a man.
She wanted a real man.
She wanted a real man. So he gave her. He said, "Okay, here's all my figures. Which one do you want?" Well, you know who she chose,
Of
don't you?
course. Of course.
She chose Frank. She said, "Because
Oh my
he's big and tough, and he's got muscles."
God.
But the funny part was after that, all her little friends would come over, and they all chose somebody. They all
Oh
wanted.
my God.
They all wanted a
Poor
big.
Ken.
Yeah, poor Ken. They all wanted a big tough man, so they're all playing
Oh,
with their Barbies with these wrestlers.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
funny.
Didn't
Poor
want
Ken. He
Ken.
really got thrown out into the weather, man.
They got thrown. No, they didn't want Ken. They wanted some big tough
And you know what,
guys.
Barbara? I don't blame him. I would have
I
thrown
don't
Ken
blame him
away
either.
too. I'd have picked
You know,
somebody else too. Let me tell you.
but I thought that was really, really,
That is
really strange. And
hysterical.
he showed me pictures of his daughter with Frank.
That's funny. That is too funny. And you know what? And it's funny because when you hear a child, like my mother used to always say, out of the mouths of babes, when you
Hmm.
hear a child say something like that, you're like, oh my God, that's so, but it's so true. It
Yeah,
really is. It is. I would have picked somebody else too. I have to be honest.
so now here's Barbie and Frank.
Well, yeah, maybe they should make another movie about
Yeah,
about Barbie and Frank, and just have like an AI thing of Frank,
yeah.
Yeah,
whatever, pushing
there
Ken
you
out of
go.
the way or something. I think that would be so funny.
And the
That
other,
would be
yeah,
adorable.
I know. And then the other things are when uh, I go to Charlotte. They have a fan fest in Charlotte every August, and I've been going there 5 years. Well, the
Hmm.
first year I was there was this little boy and his dad. Knowing Frank, you know what I mean? I mean, this is unbelievable. These children are growing up probably because of their dads and because of,
Right.
it's not just look at that because dad does it and they somehow connect with him and what it is. So 5 years later, I see him every year. Now he's taller than me. And
Wow.
every year, and still will come over and talk. And, he has a collection of Frank and everything. So I get these people that were not even here when Frank left us. And it's absolutely amazing. And it's because of what? The YouTube and everything. And they get into this, like we talked about before, old school wrestling. They seem to like it
Exactly.
better than some of this, newer wrestling. It,
Exactly.
it's unbelievable. And the other thing that gets me are tattoos. People have tattoos of Frank, they show me, on their bodies. I mean, this is taking your body and putting a huge big tattoo of
Hmm.
Frank on
Yeah.
on their skin for as long as they're there. He's there. So, he always used to tell me all he wanted to do was to give the fans the best night of their life. He knew they're paying good money to come to a match. I want them to leave and say, what a great show that was. He
Oh,
wanted to make sure that they got value for their money. And this is sometimes what happened with with the promoters because they wanted to do other things. But he knew he was such a businessman. And I guess 36 years later, I can say that he succeeded.
let me tell you something. I mean, without even trying, let's say. I mean, I know he did try, but I'm just saying the people who have paid homage to him, over the years, I feel personally that it's so well deserved. Okay. Um, Again, it breaks my heart that I didn't get to know him better because, again, you're talking about old school, and I was, like I said, born and raised in old school. My mother, my mom and dad, we used to invite the wrestlers used to come to our house, and my mom was, we were Italian, and my mom used to cook, and we cook all the time, and the wrestlers came and stayed at our house, and they ate with us, and they slept with us, in the house, and blah blah blah, and because like you said, you could go to the airport and just walk right up to the gate, and now you can't do that. Now the odds of meeting a wrestler today and having any kind of interaction with them cost hundreds and thousands of dollars. Back then you could be friends with a wrestler and have a lifelong friend and not ever have to go through any of that, and I think that's what today's young people don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
With old school wrestling, it was like a whole different entity. It was a whole different life. And again, if Frank was in the area, we could have had him over for dinner. It would have been great.
Right.
It would have been fun. We had so many wrestlers over. Then when my mom passed away, I was not as young as Jeff was. I was 20 when my mother passed away, and by the time I was 21, I had lost my whole family. So I get that, and the thing is that when my mom passed away, I started doing it, and I started cooking the dinners, and I started having them over, and then my little children got to meet, the wrestlers from back then, and it's something that you can't put a dollar figure on. It's something that you can't put um, any kind of a caption on, other than it was amazing. It was just totally amazing. And I would love very much to be able to come to one of these cons that you go to, and meet you. I would love so much to meet you. It would be a wonderful thing. I don't know. I am never at a loss for words. Believe me, Barbara. For all the times that I've bothered
True.
you on Messenger, I mean, I am never at a loss for words. And I got to be honest with you, I am completely taken aback. I am completely in awe that you're even here, and I mean that sincerely. Anybody who knows me, if you know anybody who knows me, they will tell you, and Jeannie can tell you right here, I never shut up. Okay, but I'm just like, I
She
don't even know
nodded.
what to say. It's crazy, but I do want to ask you another question, and again, no disrespect, but when you were when Frank passed away, from that moment until now, okay, it had to be more than overwhelming for you, with people coming at you from every side, and Mrs. Brody this, or Barbara this, or Mrs. Goodish this, or how do you feel, or what do you think, or come to Japan, come to
Yeah.
Australia, come to here, come to there. Did you have anybody that helped you get through this? Because I know that's got to be mind spinning. It really does.
I guess you could say my son. He was 7. I had to be strong and get through because of him. So, yes, when you have a person that depends on you, you have to focus on that, even no matter what is going on in your life. And that is what happened when we came back. A quick story. When we came back from, see, I didn't have anybody in Puerto Rico. They wanted to come, and I said, no, stay. I didn't know because I didn't know what was going on or what was going to happen or anything like that. So I kind of, thank goodness, like I said, Nancy was a Canadian lady, so she could always translate. She was with me and translated
Right.
everything that I had to do. And when I came back, uh, good friends of ours, they had this, it's the school holidays. Their 2 children, they came up to see me and they asked me, what can we do? I told them, leave your 2 kids with me. They said, what? I said, yes, I'll be so focused. There'll be someone for Jeff to correspond
Oh,
with, to be,
right.
leave. What you can do for me is leave them with me. So after I came back, I had 3 children to kind of look after, and that kept the mind. See, to keep the mind active without, because the mind is what we have a problem with when it gets so overwhelmed. It's just the static in our mind is what is the
Exactly.
is the bad
Exactly.
part. So I just told him, just leave the 2 kids. We went to basketball games. We went to 6, you know what I mean, to water parks, and that's what got me through for the first 10 days, I think they stayed with me, was just to have to do kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Something every day. And another thing you do too is you write a list of what needs to be done. And you know, if you just mark one thing off that list, you've had a successful day.
exactly.
And then with the school, and then by that time, school was getting ready to go back. And the teacher had asked me, or the principal, and said, what could we do for Jeff? You know, when he goes back, I said, have him in his class with a couple of his best friends. Because that'll be, instead of going, you know how when you change classes and then you
Right.
change, so that he walks in and he has a couple of his good friends with him,
Oh,
and they put him with a couple, you know, a couple of his good friends. Another thing, there's another little funny story, you know,
it,
because of course we
tell them
didn't see him
all.
very often, you
Tell
know.
them all. Yep.
Yep, we didn't see him very often. So Jeff was having show and tell at school. Who do you think he
Mhm.
took to school for show and tell?
His dad.
His dad.
Oh,
As Frank said, trying to sit. He said, I was scared to sit in those little things. I thought I was going to break the chairs. So here he was.
oh,
So, because not a lot of people knew about, you know, who his dad was or who I was, Matt, because we were living out in the country. We were kind of out in the country, so we were kind of invisible, if you know what I mean. They didn't understand that. And this was before all the internet and every TV. So it was, a lot of people didn't really know who
right,
he was,
right.
you know. And another thing, as I said, I always tell people too, I'm going back to him going through the airports and that. And I've had these children that are all grown up tell me these. See, I go to these fan fests and they tell me these incredible stories about Frank. And they said, we saw him. I can always remember. I mean, now they're adults. You know, saw him going through the airport. I was so scared because he looked like such a monster. I would hide behind my dad's legs. I was just, and you
Mm,
know, and they remember, if he saw that, he would go over and bend down and talk to that child, and that child
oh,
remembers. As an adult, that child remembers, and they tell me, it just showed them, you cannot judge a book by its cover. You don't know. We cannot go by appearances a lot of times. It's what's in here. It's how the
exactly.
person is. And they remember as a child. Now as an adult, they remember this monster. Because yeah, with his hair out and that in those
Yeah.
days, and
They
being
always
so
remember
big.
kindness. Yeah, they remember kindness and they remember evil. They remember those two things, you
Yeah,
know. Um,
they remember the kindness.
you mentioned you. I think you just mentioned hair. I loved his hair. I have to tell you, I'm a hairdresser. Okay,
Oh,
I would have loved to cut his hair. It would. I mean, forget it. Did he? What did he do? Did he ever have trouble with his hair? Did he just let it go whenever or whatever? Did he
no, he
have
just,
like?
well, as you said, because when he was home, it was pulled back, always pulled back in a ponytail. As we do when we have a longer hair, we pull it back in a ponytail.
Right, right.
Like I said, a lot of times there's another thing, like going through the airport. Then he would take the ponytail out, and boom, that
Uh
was that was one of the difference too of becoming from Frank to Bruiser. The two
exactly.
things, you take the hair out, and as you saw it, boom, it was
Yeah,
just a mass.
it's
And then he
crazy.
wore it, yeah, wore it home because I don't think
It
he
did that. Yeah.
ever,
Now I'm going to tell you, you know, we're like 3 minutes almost over
right.
on this hour, and you know what? I'm a woman of my word. Okay, I told you an hour. I'm not going to keep you more than an hour. However, I want you to know that we literally could listen to you talk
Okay.
for days, for
Yes.
days. Two things I want to ask you before you leave. Number one, do you ever come to any of the cons on the East Coast?
East Coast, well, Charlotte.
Okay.
Charlotte is
Like
one.
anything in New Jersey, Philadelphia, anything like that?
I have been to New Jersey and I have been to Philadelphia, but I haven't been asked back, as I said, for a while. But yes, if I get asked back, who knows? I might, because I've done both of those ones.
Well, if you ever do come back, I would love to come and meet you. I'd be honored to meet you, take you to lunch, you know,
Oh,
or
thank you.
take you back to my house and I'll cook for you.
Or if you ever come to the East Coast of Florida too, let me know.
Oh, I would love that. Seriously. The other thing I want to say to you too is please, I promise you, I won't bother you, but please know that you are welcome to come back anytime at all. Obviously, we could talk about you and your son and Frank forever. Please, please, please keep your calendar open. I would love to
Okay.
have you back again. I hope this wasn't too painful for you to do.
No, no, talking to you two lovely ladies. Of course
Thank
not.
And
you.
what is the
No.
information again, just one more time, for the cauliflower project?
Oh, yeah, Cauliflower Alley Club. Look up the website. It has all the information on there. If you want my book or anything, just send me a message. I've got a few copies there. Send me a message on Facebook, but tell me that you heard me on the show.
Oh, thank you. That would be wonderful. I'd love that. But okay, we're gonna. Again, I hate to do this. We're gonna let you go, but you have a great day. Again,
Yes.
I
You
can't
too.
thank you enough.
You,
Yes. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Thank
you're
you.
Thank
quite
you. God
welcome.
bless you. Tell
Lovely
Tony
to
we
meet
said
you both.
hi. Tell Tony I said hi and I want him on my podcast.
I will.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you.
much, Barbara. God bless
Thank
you. All
Bye
you.
right. Bye
bye.
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 Wow. What a woman. What a
Wow.
lady. Oh my God.
Oh my
I
God.
am I'm never going to be the same again. Never.
No.
I will
No.
never be the same again. She was literally amazing. And I'm
Yes.
telling you right now, if you don't listen to this podcast 10 times, there's something wrong with you. Okay. And I mean that. I'm gonna get off this podcast and start it all over again. She was incredible.
Yeah.
And Bruiser Brody, all the things that we just learned about him. What a kind man, what a
Yeah.
gentleman. So yeah, look up the Cauliflower Alley Club. Okay.
Yes.
I just noticed at the very end that it seemed like you might not be able to get a good look at her face, because I look up here, we could see her, but down here, I just noticed at the end, it was kind of like, she wasn't in perfectly, but you can adjust your screen if you need to. But do yourselves a favor, like try to listen to our show more often, because we really like having things like this on, and it had to be gut wrenching for her to talk about losing her husband so many times over the years. It had to be. I can't even imagine that.
Yeah. And if anybody out there who has lived under a rock for the last 30 some years, you can look up, either rewatch Vice's Dark Side of the Ring on Bruiser Brody, or you can just Google and Bruiser Brody, and things will come up on how he died and the controversy there, and that his murderer never
exactly.
faced charges, or
He
got
he was
set free.
acquitted.
So
He was
yeah,
acquitted.
he's
He was,
acquitted.
yeah. And I didn't want to talk about this with Barbara
Right.
because it's disrespectful.
Yeah.
But yeah. And from what I understand, the American wrestlers never even got their subpoenas
Right.
until after the trial was over. Okay,
Over.
over. Unreal. And yes, he was blatantly, it wasn't an accident. And I'm sorry, and I don't care who reads this, who hears it, who whatever. It wasn't
Well,
an
it
accident.
wasn't. That's
No.
You're not saying anything that's not true.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, because Barbara was saying, he had an accident, and I didn't want to say anything right then, but it was a cruel, cruel,
Yeah.
horrible thing to do to such a wonderful, amazing man. And it's so unfair that this little boy and Barbara were deprived of their husband and father for so many years for someone who got away with it. And that's, excuse my language, bullshit. Okay,
Yeah.
period. But anyway, Cauliflower Alley Club, look that
Yes.
up. Okay. Also, don't forget about signing the petition for the banner. Also, don't forget May
Save the
3rd
date.
in
Yep.
2025. We're going to have something great. Um, and if you have any questions, if again fans who want to be on the show, right now I'm telling you, this is getting so hot that I'm so excited. We are booked like way into the future, and I'm so happy about that. And I thank Joel Goodhart, of course, for a lot of that. But just please contact us. We're not going to bite you. The email's right there on your screen. Give us a text, give us an email for Jeannie or myself. Say hello, blah blah blah. We just want to meet you. We want to see you. We want to bring you on the show. Also, there's so many things to talk about. I mean, we could literally go on for hours. There's so
Yeah.
many things to talk about, but we're going to have show after show after show. I want to say a special hello to my friend Xavier. I promised him I would say hello to him and his fiance. He talks so sweet about you. He loves you to death. I am sorry.
Aw.
I'm an old lady. I forgot her name. I want to keep saying Sarah, but that's not it. I don't think.
Hi,
But anyway,
Xavier. Hi, fiance. Thanks for watching.
yes, absolutely. He told me that they share TV shows together, like stuff that he
Mhm.
doesn't want to watch, he watches for her.
Right.
And when he listens to the podcast, she has to listen too. So God bless you for that, honey. I hope you like the show. Anyway, Jeannie, go have a great weekend.
Yes,
Okay,
going to go
and
watch the rest of the Eagles preseason game. It's going to be a snoozer, but
that's all right. I
got
might
my
watch
Eagles
it
gear
too.
on, so
Well, I'm actually going to go have lunch because I worked from 8 to
yes.
12 today, and I'm ready to fall out of this chair. So I'm going to say goodbye. Have a
Yes.
great day. Jeannie, I love you, and I'll
I
talk
love
to you
you
soon.
more.
And you
Yes.
have a great vacation, and I love you most.
I will. I
All right,
will.
take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.